Hi guys, today I'm gonna talk about the Gamers Nexus and Linus Tech situation, and especially I have some concerns about objectivity from Gamers Nexus side of things, doing media on another media outlet that is also very much a competitor. Supposed to do journalistic work on your friends or your family, or for that matter, if you're gonna do it on your competitors, you really need to make sure that you are following all of the journalistic ethics that is out there. And I do think that this has been overlooked overall by every coverage I have seen of this. It has mostly been about how Linus Tech tips are doing bad things, and yes, they have not been doing very good things. I very much agree with that, but I also find it very hard to see the Gamers Nexus coverage of the situation as unbiased or objective, since Linus Tech Tips is also by far their biggest competitor on component testing. For me, it's hard to see how Gamers Nexus as a media outlet can do investigative journalism on another media outlet that is their biggest competitor. It doesn't matter how much Steve wants to do this the right way and wants to be looking at it objectively, but you can't when you are friends and when you are competitors. There's just no way that you can actually do it. There is a good point of what they're doing. Yes, I really think that the first video they did was good information that Linus Media Group really needed to get, but that don't make it unbiased or objective, since Gamers Nexus is competing with them on this exact same field. That Steve was unwilling to reach out to Linus Media Group to ask them about their findings tells me that he is not in the position to do this kind of media work on that company. I am certain that if Linus Media Group would have been Asus or some other big brand, that before releasing this video, Steve would have reached out to them and asked about their view on the content that they have or on the data that they have and what they are gonna do about the problem. Since the connections between Linus Media Groups and Gamers Nexus, Steve did not want to reach out, which is absolutely normal, but that is also the reason why you are not supposed to do journalistic work on your friends or your family, or for that matter, if you're gonna do it on your competitors, you really need to make sure that you are following all of the journalistic ethics that is out there. I'm gonna take a few examples that really stands out as pretty weird to me. So take this video from the tour of Linus Media Group, and you have this one guy in the labs who is making a statement that is not true.
The difference between us and somebody like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed is we test new components, new tests every time.
And then you are looking at it as if Linus Media Group is saying this, they're saying it publicly, and yes, of course they kind of are, because they probably knew that someone were filming this, but they have not had the chance to make sure that they are saying what they want to say. And this is not the worst part. I can see that Hardware Unboxed and Gamers Nexus had a hard time with that statement. What is weird to me is what you're doing afterwards, taking comments from the community which has absolutely nothing to do with Linus Media Groups.
What's even more disturbing, though, is the community response every time someone has a criticism that's valid. Like when the community beat down Hardware Unboxed for voicing their concerns of LTT's testing accuracy issues, which, while not completely tactful, yes, were valid. Then you look at the recent comments, though, like this, quote, "If a professional mouse reviewer couldn't figure it out, what makes you think the average consumer will find the plastic wrapper covered?" Quote, "And if your product can be unboxed by a tech reviewer who does this for a living, and that reviewer doesn't even realize there's packaging that needs to be removed before use, that's bad user experience design of the product that should be called out as a negative." Yes, but calling it out would require noticing it as a prerequisite, which a media outlet taking its time would do.
It's freaking people on Reddit who's saying something that has nothing to do with Linus Media Group, and I really don't know what it is doing in that video. What do you want to tell with that? I really can't get it. Or yeah, I do get it. You want to paint a picture of something that will make your video look stronger, and that is because it's a competitor, and you really want to make sure that if you're gonna do this type of video, which is borderline non-ethical, you really want to make your case look strong. And this is a thin line to balance on. Like, how are you gonna do an investigative journalism on a competitor? It's freaking hard. And like, my opinion is that Gamers Nexus failed to do good journalism. They did point out some really good points on stuff that Linus Media Group has messed up. But it does not make it good journalism when you're not doing it the right way. If we are gonna continue doing this in the tech space, where YouTube channels are gonna call out each other and try to make the other channels look bad, we will have a horrible time in the tech community. Like, it's weird to me how this whole thing has enrolled, and that people seems to not question anything about Gamers Nexus motives about this. Like, the only thing I've seen is Kristoffer Yee is taking this up.
I disagree with this take vehemently by Steve. Steve, who is a self-proclaimed journalist with a high level of integrity, failing to reach out for a comment, in my opinion, is telling. In almost every piece of media where a group is covering the actions of another group, they always reach out for comment. Because if they do respond, you can compare their words to their actions to see if it lines up and it helps paint a better picture of the situation. Or they can decline to comment, which can speak even louder than an official statement. I can only assume one of the major reasons that Steve didn't reach out is because it was probably awkward to be like, "Hey, I'm doing a piece on how you fucked up. Do you have any comment on why you're fucking up?" The reason I bring this up is because earlier in the original 44-minute video, Steve presents the why he even made it as an altruistic endeavor.
This is a very uncomfortable video for me to make. I haven't enjoyed the process of it, but this is something we feel is desperately needed, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. And it is not simply drama to talk about errors and factual testing issues in a way that hopefully brings to light the problems so that the media organization, LMG, can attempt to rectify them if it in fact wishes to do so.
He didn't run ads on the original video because he claimed he wanted to demonstrate how valuable of a message this was for tech consumers and the viewers as a whole. In English, he basically said, "I've got a lot to lose, but this is more important than me and my business," which I don't fully agree with. A content piece like this will largely be viewed as drama, no matter how much you tell your viewers not to perceive it that way. Take a look at Linus' subreddit right now if you don't believe me. It's an absolute shit show. And while Steve claimed that he had a lot to lose, I think that with the video he was able to put together, it would be ignorant to say that he also didn't have something to gain. Videos like this, where you slam a larger or more established creator than yourself and present yourself as better, can net yourself some pretty die-hard fans who will support you for the long term. As someone who has made a couple of these pieces, trust me, I would know. On top of that, the views that Gamers Nexus is receiving on this 44-minute video, while not monetized immediately, will probably end up resulting in more ad revenue for the future and resulting in higher sponsorship offers if the numbers grow accordingly.
Let's be real. Gamers Nexus knew that they were gonna get millions of views on this video. They knew that they were gonna get a lot of new subscribers. They knew that Linus Tech Tips would lose subscribers, and I don't think they did it in an ethical way. Especially, like, it turned way worse when Steve started to reply to Linus' post on the LTT forum and picking that apart and starting to do conclusions about that it's clear how Linus Tech Tips is not taking this seriously, blah blah blah, and it's been 2 freaking hours. It's not hard to see that Linus is obviously gonna be super emotional, since he just looked at that 44-minute piece of Steve picking his company apart and making them look like freaking assholes. And like, there were some other things that I found quite weird in the video. Like, for once, Steve started talking about how it was so hard for him to make this video and how they might lose connections to YouTube if they would ever need them. They couldn't contact them because they don't have those kind of connections yet.
We risk pissing off people with direct and very valuable and useful to us connections to YouTube if we ever happen to need them. I don't have a connection at YouTube, really, who can help me in any way.
And I'm standing there like, what do you mean? I don't get it. What does it have to do with this video? Yes, it was hard for you, but journalism is gonna be hard to do a lot of times, especially if you're gonna do it on your friends or competitors or whatever, where you are in an ethic gray zone where you probably should not be at all. Yes, let's be real. If Steve really wanted to, like, if Steve only cared about the consumer, I think Steve should have reached out to Linus and been like, hey, like, we have seen all of these things, like, this is the long list, and this is the thing with Billet Labs, like, what even happened there? Could you please tell me? These things that I see is unethical that you do over at Linus Media Group. And Linus would have the time to respond, and he would have had the opportunity to actually do something about these concerns that they have. Steve was even talking about how all the media outlets had to walk on eggshells around them and be like, oh, they had that in that chart, and that was, oh, it wasn't really true. And I just feel like, no, you didn't have to walk on no eggshells. For once, you could have told them. Second, just tell your audience, like, oh, and I saw this in Linus Tech Tips video, if you saw that, that's wrong, or I came to another conclusion, or whatever, and you would probably have the same result if you wanted to help the consumer. But for me, this very much more feels like that Steve wanted to take a shot at Linus Media Group because they are a threat to him, or that he had an ongoing resentment towards how Linus Media Group is doing stuff over there, and that he really wanted to call it out. But I really think we need to discuss these things, if this is ethical, and if what this can do to the tech space and the media outlets out there. Yeah, it was this other thing where Steve said that they are going light on the manufacturers, and especially with the Asus Sports situation. And I feel like Linus Tech Tips has never done their videos about going hard on the brands. They have not. But what they have done is putting pressure on brands from time to time to do the right thing if they want to continue to sponsor their videos, and that's how they are going about it. And Gamers Nexus has taken a totally different route, and it's probably due to 1, what audience you have, 2, what content you usually do, and 3, what you actually believe will make the biggest difference. Steve, I'm guessing now, maybe he's thinking that it's gonna make a bigger difference if you call them out and you make a video about it and you're being super harsh and you're beating down on them. And he might be right. Linus might think, oh, yeah, this is bad, but it's better for me to make good connections over there and call them up and talk about it and ask, what are you going to do about it? And then follow up on what they have actually done about it and see if it actually happens again. Like, both of these things are working towards the same direction, but you're taking a different path depending on what you believe in and what you believe will work. And I don't think Steve is in the position to call out someone else's work and tell them how to do their how they are going to call out manufacturers, or if they're going to call out manufacturers at all. They don't have to do that if they don't want to. They're obviously doing it, but they're not doing it as Gamers Nexus thinks is the right way. And who gives a shit? It's not up to them to decide how other media outlets is gonna deal with these types of things. And I think you have to bear that in mind, that Gamers Nexus is doing their videos mostly about testing and like seeing hard stats, facts, factories, hard things that you can see in numbers or metal. Meanwhile, Linus Media Group is much more doing
Mustard is going to destroy this. What the hell? Okay, we just hit 74, but it's like, this is usable.
They are just doing entertainment and testing and trying to combine them. And if you need to have good connections over at Asus and Intel and AMD and Nvidia and everyone else, because you want to do the AMD or Intel tech upgrades, you want to do all of these things and you actually need them for it, maybe you are not even able to do the same type of journalism as Gamers Nexus is doing. That's also one of those things where Steve was talking about the Noctua situation and the framework situation, and I just don't get it. Like, yes, they're doing stuff together with them, which is based on they want money. But on the same time, Gamers Nexus, they are doing sponsorships with the same companies that they are testing products from. And yeah, they tell us that they will not get affected. They have this statement on their website on how they are choosing their sponsors and how they are usually reaching out to them and how they cut the deals with them from time to time when their product is not good enough. They are still getting paid from that same company that they are gonna call out if their products are bad. And if Steve thinks that it's not possible to be unbiased when you have a collab with a company, but you can be when you're just getting sponsor money from a company, I think that's a gray zone. I'm not saying Linus is unbiased. I'm not. I'm just asking how it can be so important to call out that Linus Media Group, or Linus himself especially, is not unbiased in these situations, but at the same time not feeling the need to even do any type of disclosure about how himself and Gamers Nexus themselves are not unbiased in doing like investigative journalism on your biggest competitor, or taking money from the same companies that you are supposed to make reviews and testing on. I would love to hear from some actual journalists and from people who are more knowledgeable in media ethics than I am, which is probably any journalist. I genuinely think that both Steve and Linus is straight up guys with mostly good values, and I really don't want the space to go in a direction where we're gonna focus on what the other media outlets is doing wrong, like in a toxic way. If Steve wants to stop testing components and just see what other media outlets is doing, I think he would do a great job. I think he would be a great journalist. But I think it will be a really hard path to walk down to both do PC testing and at the same time do journalistic work on your competitors. And that's basically what I had on this. I hope someone enjoyed it and that people won't hate me too much for it. So that's all I had. I just wanted to ventilate my thoughts on this. And if you think I'm an absolute idiot, please let me know down below what you think. And if you want to see anything more from me, please consider subscribing. And I will see all of you in the next one. Bye bye.